Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Hey, good morning and welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Bill Allen sitting in for Winston Chester. Today is Tuesday the 17th and we have a great show lined up for you with a very special guest, a familiar face for you. We're going to talk about hunting, and we're going to especially talk about how you need to be fishing right now in the bay and taking advantage of this kind of weather, how to fish it. Well, let's look. Speaking of weather, it's high of 74 today with a low of 61. You're going to have a wind southwest around 10 to 15, and that's why we're having a 74-degree high. There's also about a 50% chance of rain, of course, when that happens. The tides, now the low is at 3:34 this morning and the high is at 5:56 this afternoon. Good time to fish an incoming tide, but also when you're looking at the peak or the high activity time today, it's listed as 6:34 to 8:34 this morning. After that tide ebbs and starts to change, looks like it's going to be pretty good. Our river readings, Apalachicola at Bluntstown is 8.5 feet, and that's come down substantially from the 14 or 15 that it was a week ago or so. And then the Choctawhatchee at Caryville is 7 feet, and that has been, pretty flat for the last few days. It probably will continue to do that. So if you can get down to the Brothers River around Howard's Creek or anywhere down there, this water's still moving the way it is. I got some great reports of shellcracker being caught, and also Bill's been down there and running trot lines and things and wearing out the catfish. So we're going to take this break to pay some bills, and we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. As you can see, I'm joined by Mr. Mark Cowart here, one of my old friends and longtime fishing partners. But you've been doing a little Texas time here lately, haven't you?
We have. We have. We got a real good friend of ours has an amazing ranch in the heart of Texas, actually. And here's we're taking a look at this buck right here that Michael shot with a bow. About a 35-yard shot, 30-yard shot. Deer went about, that big old buck probably didn't go more than 25,
30 yards.
25 to 30 yards.
Right on him.
Yeah. And he didn't go very far. I think he probably went maybe 30 yards at the most. But it's a beautiful, beautiful big deer right there. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
My goodness.
This is the biggest deer I've ever shot. I mean, I'm an old fat football player, and you can see how big that deer is next to me. The deer in Texas have great, they beautiful racks and big spreads, but their bodies often aren't real big. This was a 180-pound deer.
That's a big body deer.
And gorgeous deer. Michael had seen this deer several times. Beautiful 10-point. I got in a position where I could get it with a crossbow and get a shot at him. So I went and sat and waited, and man, he walked in.
You hit him with a crossbow?
I did. I hit him with that Raven, and I will tell you, it was a very tough.
It's not fair.
It's not. It's like rifle hunting, but I had a window, a very, very small window to shoot, and I got through, and he ran maybe 25 or 30 yards, and he was down. That's by far the biggest. I've shot 10 points before, but I've never had one that big. It was amazing.
This
is the gate that goes into my buddy's ranch. That's the Heart of Texas Ranch. The geographical center marker that the state has that identifies the heart of Texas, the center of the Texas, is on the ranch. It's beautiful. And when you pull up, it's just a statement. It's a beautiful ranch. That's a deer that Michael got at the end of last year. That was a giant, and a real giant. And he had waited 3 days to get that shot at that deer. He never rushed. He took the time. And he ran probably about 50 yards. And I will tell you,
that's a big deer.
That was a gorgeous deer. It's beautiful. It really is.
Now this is
one of the coolest things ever. We had just got out the night before and brushed in some ground blinds, and he walked in. And I said, I didn't shoot him. I get people make fun of me for this. I just watched him walk. And obviously I could have hit him.
You're in a ground blind?
Blushed in ground blind. Now the key to that is, remember, you got to work with the wind. So
absolutely.
the wind's blowing from him to me.
Man,
he knows I'm over there, but he can't see me. I'm camouflaged in, and
he knows you're there. He's probably seen you shoot before.
I don't know. I've never. Yeah, he seen me shoot. He was safe. Everybody makes fun of me.
I don't think that's in Texas.
That's not. That's here. That's some good winter redfish. I'm telling you right now, the red fishing is probably the best of the year, and I love fishing this time of year.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful, beautiful redfish right there, caught on a Z-Man TRD with a weedless eye jig head. It's another one caught, and I mean, this time of year is so much fun. And we're going to talk. That's Michael standing on. That's the difference in feeders here versus there.
Yeah.
And these 1,000 to 2,000 pound feeders.
High capacity.
Yeah. But that's actually a protein feeder. That's Michael took me out one day, and that was one of the days those redfish are so beautiful this time of year. The water's crystal clear. It's so much fun this time of year. But the fishing right now, Bill, is good, and
it's great.
You just have to understand is that for years and years and years back when Bill taught me how to redfish, but when we never really grasped the winter redfishing thing, we just never could figure it out. The problem is that we're thinking opposite. We're thinking they should go deeper. These fish go shallow. And they're sitting up there sunning.
They're sunning.
You want to be on the bank that the sunrise is warming that water first. Darker bottoms are great. They will get in sand if they don't have any other choice. But this time of year, it's all about super long cast, ultra thin braid, maybe only a 18-inch, 15-pound fluorocarbon leader the most. And I mean, you're really watching. You got to pay attention, and you can't make any noise. There's a spot that I've found that we rode by for years, just drove right by it. And one day, the way the wind was and everything, I said, I'm just going to go try this. And pulled in there, and I drifted, turned the motor off, put the trolling motor down, didn't run the trolling motor for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then I put it barely just moving the boat, and I got closer and closer to this bank, and I could see the redfish just back there just tailing. Mm-hmm. And I screwed up the first time because I kind of rushed to get up to them, and then they all spread out, and then they'll just shut down and not eat. They don't really go very far. They just don't want to eat. But we figured it out. You just got to position your boat. If there's any breeze at all, let the breeze help you get the boat to where it needs to be, and then wait, because those fish will work real slow. But these 35, 40-degree mornings, you usually think there's no way I'm going to go. That's some of the very best fishing mornings.
That's true. We're going to talk about what Mark's using, what we're using during this time, but we got to go ahead and take a break right here, and we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. All right, Mark, you brought some weapons?
I did. I kind of brought the things along with me that are what I'm using right now to catch these fish in the winter. I'm going to start out with one of the bait that I really love the most in the winter is either this Pearl Glimmer 4-inch TRD or big TRD on the weedless eye jig head. I choose this jig head just because still there's some dormant grass out there and stuff, and you get into fish, you can't afford to get hung up or get a bunch of stuff on there. You may only have one shot at that fish, and you better make it count. Second thing I'll do is that sometimes I'll downsize and cut about 1 inch off of that same bait and shorten it down a little bit to make it where it's a little more appealing to the fish. Sometimes they just don't want to eat, or they don't want to eat anything big. And I'll even go down to this size, which is that same 4-inch TRD cut down. They do make you can see right here how much is cut down. They do make Z-Man does make a finesse TRD. I just use the big TRD and make it be whatever I want to make it. What's cool about this one, when you get this small, this is on the finesse eye. It's a Texas eye, but it's a finesse size. And it's got a free-floating head on it that bait, when it hops, that bait will move, but when it stops, this lets the tail float up. and it's probably one of the most deadly combinations when they don't want to eat.
Yeah, those Z-Man are extremely buoyant.
Yeah, they
have the opportunity. Those heads are the only ones that I'll fish.
Yeah,
these soft baits.
Yeah, you're really smart to pair this with the right heads. The other thing that we'll do is that we'll take, and this is a great transitional bait and a great bait in the summer. It's the finesse. It's the Texas side. This is still on a finesse for winter. And use a streaks. It's the 3.75 inch streaks, and it does the same thing. Sometimes these fish are feeding on a little bit of bait fish, a little bit of finger mullet or a little mullet, whatever they are. This will kind of mimic that. You just kind of jerk it, swim it.
You pay attention to what time of year it is, and also to the bait that you see around the boat.
That's right.
The flats or something. You want to match that. Now, a lot of people overlook the sandworm.
Oh my gosh!
Basically, which is devastating and one of the best days we ever had.
Yeah, Bill and I were fishing. We were trying. It was a cold day. It was the 1st of February, and we were back fishing. We couldn't figure out what the fish would eat. We did see the fish. We saw redfish move from one side of this little cut to another. We threw everything at them, and then finally we picked up. I think for me, I picked up a Z-Man jerk shad, which I never even thrown one. This is a long time ago, and Bill picked up another fluke bait like that, and we just threw them out there and hopped them off the bottom, and they ate those baits. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the most miraculous days. As soon as you got a fish in the boat, they're spitting up things that look just like that.
Yeah,
just like it.
They were working in a horseshoe.
Yeah.
They would run up in this little bayou and do whatever, and we never moved once we found them.
Power pole down and
they
sit
come
right
out.
there.
And they go up in the other bayou, and we set their positions pretty well, and switched to these sandworms, and we wore.
It was
I don't know how many we caught.
Michael and I fished one of the Emerald Coast tournaments that very next Saturday, and went there, and won it in an hour and a half. Had the winning fish in the boat on that same school. But I will tell you, a guide who had some guys on his boat eased into that bayou and saw us catch those fish. Those fish were, and I'm proud for that guy because he was able to put his clients on fish. But after that, once they figured it out, we were out of business.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was, don't overlook a sandworm imitation. And especially there is a time where these smaller baits catch tremendous fish.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's really one of those things is you just got to go slow. You're barely dragging on the bottom. You don't want to do any hard hops, any of that stuff. Just barely move it and keep it where the fish are and just go slow. They'll eat it. They will eat it.
Mm-hmm. So, and these are not very important. You're not hopping these. You're not popping them.
This time of year, I'm trying to just barely drag, literally drag the bait on the bottom and let that tail float up. Drag it on the bottom and let the tail float up. A lot of movement this time of year. Everything's cold. Everything's slowed down.
Yeah.
So you don't want to look abnormal to them. It needs to look natural. And I will tell you, the Z-Man baits are ideal for this time of year. They're great year round, but I'm telling you, they really have made themselves the money bait.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's don't think hunting's all there is right now, because I'm telling you, this is some of the very best fishing.
Well, we said for years, don't winterize your boat. No, you're missing the best opportunity.
You're right. You're dead right. That's exactly right. Have y'all had any chance to fish?
A little bit. There's been a lot going on, but we have fished and have been when we go. It's been very successful.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. And I tell you guys something too. All these baits are available at Academy. You can go right in there. The weedless side jig heads, the Texas side jig heads, the trout eyes, all that stuff is there. So
if you're not fishing those on these types of baits, these Z-Mans, these soft baits, you're making a mistake.
Absolutely.
The action, the way that it sits. It just drives those fish.
It just drives
the fish crazy.
It really does.
And while you mentioned Academy, if you haven't tried these shirts, these all come from Academy.
Magellan.
They're Magellan, but there's some kind of blend, but they are without question the most comfortable shirts that I've ever put on.
Well, you look good wearing it.
Well, that goes without saying. But anyway, then they're not $80 or $90. High-tech shirts. They're extremely reasonable. They're short sleeve. They're whatever. They're absolutely. They breathe exceptionally well. I don't know what they're made of, and I don't care because they work.
Yeah,
but
it's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, man, I'm telling you, y'all got to go fishing. And I'll also share one thing with you guys. This bait right here is called a Willow Vibe. It is a bass bait, and I found out that might be one of the best pompano baits to throw when you're throwing at pompano. I'm going to tell you, I've caught 4 or 5 pound pompano throwing that redfishing in the bay.
Yeah.
And it's the Willow Vibe. I will tell you, you guys definitely need to try the Willow Vibe. And you can get this at Academy as well. They're great. I mean, they're really, really good. If you're redfishing with it, you got to work it a little slow. You cannot horse a redfish in. I did tell I was talking to Daniel Nussbaum, the president of Z-Man. I said, man, make that a 2X hook for me, please. Because, I mean, these redfish, trout, they gobble this thing. It's amazing.
One that I hadn't done. All right, we got, we're running actually on time. Jeff ought to be proud of us here. So we're going to take this quick break and come back.
That's awesome.
As usual, we have a good time with that camera.
Everybody's coaching Bill how to use his iPhone.
We're going to flip back to hunting for just a minute because my good buddy, former teammate Ricky Green has sent me some pictures here. Now, this is on his property, which should be named Heaven, but I don't know what it's named, but he quail hunts and he turkey hunts and all that. And his wife does too. Now, this is a buck that his wife was chasing. Elisa Joy, and if I screwed that up, I'm sorry, but Elisa Joy, I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is her with that buck that she's been after, and she killed it with a bow.
That's awesome. You know, that's impressive.
So yeah, just saying that she's Ricky's much better half is probably an understatement, but he's just around to help. But that's picture. That's a good size Kentucky deer up there. Now,
he's wide.
You're doing that on your own property.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's wide too.
And that's Ricky there, settled in the background with that deer. But I tell you what, he's got a beautiful place up there. That's another one that she took earlier, I think it was. But Ricky's very faithful, watches the show all the time, and I want to make sure that I get these on. A good buddy of mine. And I was looking through all this, and I'm trying to find where my invitation was to come up there, but I don't think the entire text came through. So I'll be looking for that.
Now they're in Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I got asked just a couple of days ago, well, like who all watches this show? I said if they're in the Southeast and they're sportsmen, they watch this show.
Oh, listen, man. People watch this show from all over. There are people in Ohio that my buddy Bob was saying. I've said this before that. He's a partner of mine up there, but there's a whole group of people up there who works at Honda that watches this show because people come here and visit.
Yes.
And they watch the show and then they go back to where they are. You pull it up on YouTube and everything. So it's just, it's amazing how many times we get stopped and get talked about and somebody's seen us on the show or something.
Oh, I mean, Michael and I walked into Spanish Fort to do a seminar there, and half the people they go, "Oh, we saw you on, we watch you on Panhandle Outdoors."
Everywhere.
I mean,
everywhere.
It's awesome.
All right, let's get through these but let's switch back to fishing right now, okay?
All right, so one of the things that we talk about, and we're going to go back to this winter fishing, is that you have to slow down, but you have to make sure that you are not spooking the fish and pushing the fish. You got to remember. It's like putting a spoon in a coffee cup that is absolutely full. You push that spoon down in there, it causes that weight to wash out each side. They feel your boat. And that's how they sense that there's a shrimp 20 feet away from them. It's that same sensation. If they can feel that shrimp with their body, they can certainly feel the boat. So you have to try to keep the nose of your boat pointed at the fish the best you can. And I tell everybody, if you got 2 guys fishing, and they're on spooky, shallow fish, you want to both of you try to be in front of the boat if all possible, because what that does is that shock wave is going out instead of being bounced to them. But we also really downsize. We're going to medium light, medium at the most, and we're using 10-pound braid, and we use high seeds braid, which is a third thinner than Spider Wire or Power Pro. And 15-pound fluorocarbon, and we're going to a smaller piece of fluorocarbon, 18 inches typically, 2 feet at the most, because what you're trying to do is you want to use less of that 15-pound fluorocarbon in the air drag throwing. You want that as much as that light braid coming. And you've just got to fling that thing, man. You got to get it as far away as you can, and you got to make sure you throw past the fish. Don't ever throw on those fish.
Yeah. So I've proven several times that does not work.
Yeah. I mean, when they're actively feeding and there's shrimp popping all around or something like that, or there's an aggressive school, you can throw in and get away with it. This time of year, you're not.
No.
And
you need to, and we've said this over and over again, because when we fish, the boat's full of rods. It's full of rods, but you've got to match your rod and your reel, to your line for the conditions that you're fishing in. If you take a stiffer shaft rod and line too heavy, the same thing you might throw top water with or something like that, you're not going to get any distance out of that for these.
I mean, this thing weighs nothing.
Yeah, you're not going to get any distance, and you're going to have one of those big time wind knots in the thing.
And
so
honestly,
you have to match it.
Yeah, I mean, and this thing is a little less than 1/8 of an ounce. And I could throw this about 25 yards.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a long way for something that doesn't weigh.
7.5 foot.
It's a 7.5 light, medium light. And I'll tell you, not all medium rods and not all medium lights are the same.
No.
You got to make sure you got a rod. When you pick that rod up, if that rod's heavy, then that rod is not going to perform like a lighter feeling rod when you're just holding the rod without a reel on it. The lighter the rod feels, the more sensitive it's going to be, but it also is going to have better action, and you need that action. Bill's one of the best I've ever seen. It literally, back in the old days, the caveman days, when they were gilded woolly mammoth, they took a spear on the end of a stick and they did like an atlatl. Well, that's literally what you got to do. You've got to fire that bait. I've seen Bill throw topwater 50, 55, 60 yards. I mean, it's the damnest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
However, but I am going to say this. This is the best time of year to fish for sure.
Absolutely, and you're not dying out there from heat prostration and everything else, but it's just, I love it. Mark, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you come in. We need to go soon.
Let's go.
But we got to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoy it, found something useful, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.